Hello, hi, and welcome. If you're new here, my name is Sarah, and this is Wicked Reading. I have found myself at a bit of a conundrum. I'm kind of in the mood to read a lot of different things. That doesn't necessarily usually happen. I am a moody reader, but I'm in the mood to read a sci-fi, a classic, a big chunky fantasy. Like, I'm in the mood for so many different things that I cannot decide what to read. Because of that, I will be using a TBR prompt jar to pick out the books that I'm going to read in this vlog. There is a mix of prompts from you guys and prompts that I made. Any prompt that is purple or orange are submitted from subscribers. I forget which color is which. I think purple were prompts submitted to me via Instagram and the orange ones were from a YouTube post. It doesn't really matter. Nonetheless, purple and orange are all prompts from you guys. And then blue are prompts that I added that either align with, most of them actually align with certain goals that I have. A couple of them are just random that I thought would be fun. So, but most of these are actually prompts from you guys. If you want a prompt in this jar, you can leave it in the comments down below and I will add as people submit them. But I have quite a bit here already. So I'm gonna pull 3 prompts right now and pick out books. And those are the books I'm gonna read for this vlog. If I end up DNFing a book down the line, I will pull an additional prompt and fulfill it with a different book. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there, if I get there. Let's just jump right in and pick the first prompt. Ooh, purple. So it is a viewer submission. Oh, okay. This is a pretty open one. It says, if you can see it, a book with even page numbers. Okay, so I'm going to see what books I have that I'm kind of in the mood for and see which one hopefully has even page numbers. Okay, so I picked it. For whatever reason, I've been really drawn towards this one lately and I really want to read her new release as well, but I promised myself I would not read her new release until I read this one. And that is Once There Were Wolves by Charlotte McConaughey. I don't really know what to expect with this. I know that there's like a wolf sanctuary, and from what I've gathered from reviews of pretty much any of her books, she has this like suspenseful environmental conservatism thing going on with her books, but it is just literary fiction. Like, it's not like thriller or anything like that, but I guess there typically is some sort of suspenseful element within it. It looks like this takes place in Scotland, which I love, and there is a team of biologists tasked with reintroducing 14 gray wolves into the remote highlands. It says, propulsive and spellbinding, Charlotte McConaughey's Once There Were Wolves is the unforgettable story of a woman desperate to save the creatures she loves if she isn't consumed by a wild that was once her refuge. Okay, so I'm excited for this. It's been on my TBR for quite some time and it has 256 pages, so it works for the prompt. It would be cool to get a prompt from each color, but I'm just gonna let the prompt gods take control. Second prompt. Oh, another purple one. So definitely not going to get one of each color. Ooh, this one's also pretty open too. It says all the letters of your name in the title. So I have to pick out a book that has S-A-R-A-H in it. So that should be hopefully pretty easy. Let's see. That ended up being a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be, actually. I wanted to get a different genre, so I tried to go for a fantasy, and this one has been sitting on my shelves for a very long time. Dare I say 3 years now, so I gotta get to it, and it works. And that is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I didn't want to double up on any letters or anything, so S-A-R-A-H. Okay, that's hard to do with the reverse letters. Anyways, I'm gonna read this. I actually have no idea what this is about anymore. I do believe it is a YA fantasy, but let me see because I have no clue. It says the dream chooses the dreamer, not the other way around, and Laszlo Strange war orphan and junior librarian, has always feared that his dream chose poorly. Since he was 5 years old, he's been obsessed with the mythic lost city of Weep, but it would take someone bolder than he to cross half the world in search of it. Then a stunning opportunity presents itself in the person of a hero called the Godslayer, and he has to seize his chance or lose his dream forever. What happened in Weep 200 years ago to cut off the rest of the world? What exactly did the Godslayer slay that went by the name of God? And what is the mysterious problem he now seeks help in solving? The answers await in Weep, but so do more mysteries, including the blue-skinned goddess who appears in Laszlo's dreams. How did he dream her before he knew she existed? And if all the gods are dead, why does she seem so real? It says, fall into a mythical world of dread and wonder, moths and nightmares, love and carnage. Welcome to Weep. Okay. This is the start of a duology. The second one is called Muse of Nightmares. I hear really, really great things about this, but because I do think it is a YA fantasy, I'm a little bit nervous that maybe I missed, you know, the opportune, the best time for me to have read this, but we'll give it a go. And then third and final prompt, at least for now. Oh, I have like a bunch. Okay, we're just gonna go back in. Okay, oh, it's a blue one. So this is one I added. So it's either gonna go with a goal, and hopefully it's not a hard one, or it's gonna just be a super random one, but it's probably a goal. Oh, okay. Well, this is good because it gives me a different genre to work with, but it's a book from Twisted Retreat because I very much neglect those books. So at least it gives me a horror book, but let's see what I got. This is my stack of Twisted Retreat books that I haven't actually read yet. One of them is actually not a horror. It's actually, I believe, like a Greek mythology, but it's stunning. So stunning. But I'm not going to do that for now because I want to do a horror. But, okay, so we have All Parts of the Soul by Catherine. Huh? I don't know what that letter is. Fearns, or it's either F or H. Hearns or Ferns. Fearns? I don't know what that letter is. And this is like a plague-based horror that takes place in 1545, and it's just like a plague horror. I think there might be a thing with witches, there might be a priest, I don't know, but this is a stunning version of this book. I will say Twisted Retreat does very, very cool special editions. So there may end up being a DNF in this, I fear. The other one I have is Sugarcane by Cassandra Celia. I'm really not digging this, honestly. I think this is like a horror romance, and I don't know how I feel about that. It might be more like an obsession or stalker thing. I don't really know. I don't have a synopsis or anything to tell you guys. But I think that there's like relations involved, whether good or bad, I don't know. Yeah, I have like literally no information. Okay, and then the other one I have is Necrology by Meg Ripley, and this is a witch trial book. I'm gonna be so honest, I'm not excited for any of these. Not excited for any of these. So, let me think. I almost kind of want to do Sugarcane just because I kind of just want to get it out of the way. You know what I mean? And get it off my shelves and off my physical TBR. So I think I'm going to make this the pick with the very strong suspicion that I will probably DNF this. So maybe I should just add both of these. Should I do that? Because I also might DNF this. So I feel like I'll add this officially. And if I do DNF it, we'll jump right to this. So I won't even pull like another prompt. Because honestly, this is a good kick in the ass to like get through these very few Twisted Retreat books I have anyway. So yeah, this is gonna be the book I start with. If I DNF it, we're gonna go here. If I DNF this, then we'll pick another prompt. How's that sound? Deal? Deal. Okay. All right. So these are the books. What I love the most about like prompt jars for me and like my bookmark pool TBRs, it ends up creating the most random mix of books ever. Like I would never pick these books to put in a vlog together literally ever. But that's the power of the prompt jar, I guess. Okay, well, now that we have the books, let's jump into the vlog.
I have some reading updates to share with y'all. Wow, I do my nails. My nails look like butt. I'm also getting sick, so that's great. I'm gonna put these on. I'm really excited. This is a person I shop from on Etsy. I am slowly losing my nail people. I feel like all the nail shops I used to go to, they're just slowly shutting down. So I'm like slowly just losing people to go to for nails. So that sucks, but Sugar Coated is a good one. I like their quality. But anyways, so I'm going to put those on. Wow. I talk about Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I started reading this physically, but this is like a thick hardback and it's like really uncomfortable to hold. So I ended up getting a copy from my library and I'm reading it on my Kindle. So I checked out the ebooks copy from my library. So I've technically been reading it on my Kindle, but obviously it was on my physical TBR. So I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't super excited going into this book. I've had it on my physical TBR for probably 3 or 4 years now. It's one of the books I bought very early on into my reading career as an adult. So I've had this on my shelves for a very long time. I actually forgot I had it for a long time because it wasn't on these shelves for a while. It was in a cabinet in my living room downstairs. So like out of sight, out of mind for a while. I remember originally hearing about it from Katie is Reading, and I watch her stuff, but we do have very different reading styles. And then it's YA fantasy, so that kind of was like, I don't know if this is going to be a book for me. It's YA fantasy. It sounded very much like a whimsical type of fantasy, which isn't necessarily my taste either. I tried to read a book. Was it by Stephanie Garber? No. It was by Erin Morgenstern. She wrote The Night Circus. I didn't read The Night Circus. I read another book by her. And it's on the screen so you can see it. I forget what it's called. That's adult. But it's also a very whimsical type of fantasy. Like, I don't even know how else to describe it other than just like a whimsical fantasy. So I read that, and while I could see why people liked it and I could appreciate it, it just wasn't really for me either. So since then, I've kind of been even extra leery about reading something like Strange the Dreamer, because yeah, it just seemed like one of those types of books. It just didn't seem like it was my reading taste. That said, I am loving this book. I'm having such a great time with it, and I'm so excited. It has far exceeded my expectations or lack thereof. And yeah, the writing is so good. I will say, lot of similes. I noticed a lot in the beginning. I think maybe either there's a little bit less as the story's gone on, or I'm just more integrated into the writing and a little bit more immersed, so they're not sticking out to me as much. But in the beginning, a lot of similes, like almost a comical amount of similes, not gonna lie, at like 2 or 3 per page. It was kind of a lot. So it was a very descriptive, again, very whimsical in a way type of writing style, but it doesn't feel YA in terms of using, you know, simple writing. Like, she has words that I have to look up. She's using words that I have to look up. You know, she's trusting the readers. I would say it's almost more new adult. We do follow a man. I believe he is 20 in most of the books. So let me just tell you guys what the story opens up with. I read the synopsis, but I feel like, I don't know, the synopsis is just kind of like a whatever synopsis. Like, it's true, but it just doesn't stand out at the same time, for me at least. But we follow, in the beginning, he's a young boy, Laszlo Strange, and he is an orphan, and he is raised in this place of monks. So he is raised as a monk pretty much, or among monks. He's not necessarily a monk himself, but he's raised in like this almost covenant of monks. And so he is very quiet, doesn't like to make too much of a stir, of a mess. And he eventually ends up working at a library where he becomes like a librarian who is very much there to assist the scholar people there, the very scholarly people that are highly regarded. Like, one of the things in the book is his master says, you know, there are men in this world who are meant to be heroes, and then there's men in this world that are meant to help other men be heroes. So that's kind of how he sees his place in this world. But he is nothing if not a dreamer, and he has a very wild imagination. He loves the books in the library that are all these fairy tales talking about witches and all this fantastical stuff. He just really dives headfirst into all of that. He's read damn near almost every book in the library. So there is this element of integrating books and libraries and imagination and stories within this book, which is like an element that is very fun. So one of the biggest fairy tales, possible myths, that he has been interested in and curious about his entire life is about this city that has disappeared, and it just completely has become this unseen place that they now call Weep. But he remembers the day he forgot the name of the city. Like, it didn't used to be Weep. His memory was replaced with something else. So from that day forward, he was like very invested in trying to figure out what happened. Like, he just believes in his heart of hearts that this city used to exist very differently, and magic has taken the memory of that city from everybody. So he believes in magic, and there's this element of alchemy going on. And one day, a man known as the God Slayer comes to his city seeking out people to traverse and journey to the unseen city that is now called Weep. Previously, people would go there and never return. So, you know, it's very veiled in mystery and mysticism and curiosity. And due to circumstances, Laszlo ends up being one of the people that can go on this journey to the unseen city known as Weep and figure out what happened and why it happened that the city became unseen, and just the mysteries of that. And yeah, so I don't know. Even saying it out loud, it doesn't sound like a premise that I would be like, yeah, that sounds like a book for me. But just something about it, it's so entrancing, it's so immersive. Laszlo is such a great character to follow. All of the characters, the whole cast of characters are so well fleshed out, so individualized, and the story just feels so epic yet whimsical. And there's this really interesting shift of perspectives where you start to see and get the story from another lens, and it's just been so fun to read those two perspectives and wait for their paths to cross, and kind of also try to figure out the mystery of what happened in the city. And yeah, it's been a really, really fun time. The writing is so good, and I'm having just a blast. I don't even know what else to say. It's so fun. I cried already. That's dramatic, but I did tear up. There was a scene that I teared up at. I've laughed out loud. I've gotten mad. I've already just been so emotionally invested into the story. And oh my God, I didn't even tell you guys how far I am into it, but I am 39% of the way in. I'm on chapter 26. Which on the hardcover is page 209. So I'm under halfway through it, but I've just been so emotionally invested. I'm so excited to pick the book up every time I set it down, and it's just been such a wonderful time, and I'm so glad that, you know, the prompt kind of forced me to read this. And like I said, it doesn't necessarily feel YA. It feels a little bit more new adult in that way, because we do follow Laszlo, who's like 20, and there are some like darker things happening. I don't want to like say too much really, but there's this element, let me see, I don't think it's talked about in the synopsis. Okay, well, they do talk about like gods. So like I said, the one guy's like considered a god slayer. So obviously at some point he had to have slayed something that was considered a god. So the way that the gods situation ties in has been so unique, and the story of those individuals I've really enjoyed following. And it really brings up such great philosophical ponderings, I guess, where you're seeing two perspectives of different sides of a potential conflict, we'll say. It brings a little hint of like religion and kind of asks the questions of why certain things are considered a god, why they are prayed to or worshipped or whatever. Like, what is it that makes an individual or a being that type of level? And what happens when the people that we worship or the gods that we worship, what happens when they aren't quite what we wanted them to be or expected them to be and aren't necessarily this great good that we had in our heads. And I think it's really interesting, and it doesn't spoon feed anything to the reader. It just brings up these things somewhat subtly. Like, it doesn't directly ask these questions, but it brings up these perspectives where these questions can then be asked. I think that's a really powerful thing for YA books to do. I think that's why, for me, it works so well, is because Laini Taylor is just giving a story with a lot of underlying lessons or a lot of underlying ponderings, and she's just allowing the reader to get there themselves. And I think for me, I tend to, which is not correct, I admit, and it's not a good thing, but I do tend to assume that YA books will be a little bit on the nose, a little bit spoon-feedy, which isn't right, obviously. Obviously, I've read plenty of other YAs that are like that, but I do feel like for me, the handful of YAs I pick up, very few of them do that and, you know, trust the reader and all of that. But this is definitely one of those, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm having just a wonderful time. You know, there's relationships talked about, and I think that also makes it feel a little bit less YA and more new adult for me. They're talked about, they're not like anything, you know, crazy. Like, you don't see relations play out, but they are talked about. And there's death and grief, and again, these almost philosophical, almost ethical dilemma things of what some of these gods are capable of doing, and just because they can, should they, or should they try to, you know, use their powers or abilities in a different way. It's whimsical yet dark. You know, there's funny moments, but there's bitter, sad moments, and there's just a lot happening in the story, and it's extremely unique from anything I've ever personally read. But again, this is landing in a category of fantasy that I don't know that I'm naturally gravitated toward. So I'm just really pleasantly surprised by my entire experience so far. And yeah, like I said, I am so excited to pick it up every time I set it down, which is so great because I don't feel like I've felt like that for a while now. Like, it's been a while since I've had a book that's been really good. Like, this almost feels like it could be a 5-star book so far. I'm having a really, really great time, okay? And that's all I can say on that right now. Nails are done. Here we go. Maybe. There we go. Okay, cute. Nice. I haven't worn almond shapes in a while, so they feel very skinny because I've been wearing a lot of square cut lately. So they feel very skinny and dainty compared to what I've been wearing. But yeah, I definitely needed something on. I don't have too many other sets right now that I haven't worn yet. I have a lot of sets. I have a whole, I don't know if I've shown you guys this, but I have a whole nail filing system. It's kind of a mess, but my glues, my cuticle cutters, my alcohol pads go in there. These are sets that I have potentially a missing nail in if I ever want to replace one. Here, this drawer is like all the sets I have yet to wear, and these don't fit well, so, and neither do these other ones. And then yeah, I have some nails in here too that are organized by like vibe and color, but I have a lot of sets of nails. I will re-wear them at least a few times, but yeah, I get bored easily, and I like a lot of variety in both shape and colors and vibes, so it kind of sucks for me because yeah, I like a little bit of everything. Anyways, that's all I have right now. I do eventually want to redo my Kindle. I actually haven't used my Kindle in a very long time, and I'm loving reading from my Kindle right now. I need to make an effort to use this more often, and by getting the ebook from my library of a book on my physical TBR, I love that. I'm so glad I did that and thought of to do that, and I'm going to do that more often because an e-reader is much more convenient and comfortable, and I tend to read a lot faster on my Kindle than I do with a physical book. It just feels like much more of a event to have to pull my book out and start reading versus like I'll unlock this, read a page and lock it, and unlock it, read another page, unlock. Like I will, and also because it tells you your speeding, your read speeding, the speed of your reading. What was I trying to say there? The speed of your reading. If I see it's like 15 minutes or less, I'll just read it. Whereas like I can't really gauge that actually with a physical book. If it's more than 10 pages, I'm like, oh, this is gonna take me forever, but I don't even really know, honestly. But yeah, so I'm really enjoying reading from my Kindle. That said, I've had my Kindle set up like this for a very long time and I love it, but I do think it's time for a change. So I do want to eventually revamp my Kindle at some point in this vlog. I don't know when I'll do that. But actually, now that I'm talking about that, I have some mail that I need to open. So I'll actually do that with y'all because there might be some stickers in here that I could use. And I totally forgot I was sitting on these packages. I know that a lot of them are bookmarks. What is this? Oh, I forget what I got from this store. Felt like a book, but I know what that is now. I think a lot of these are bookmarks, but there might be some stickers. So let's open these really quick, actually, while I'm sitting here. Okay, so I know that these are stickers. This is Book Babe Designs, but she did just change her shop name. I think it's Designs by Bree now. But I am part of her, I think it's a bi-monthly sticker club. So I know that these are stickers. I have so many of her stickers. Oh, so sticker club. Oh, I think they're like more Valentine's Day themed. Cute. A bear. A little book with heart balloons. A license plate thing. And this is adorable. A little duck. Cute. Actually, a lot of the stickers I have on here are from her. That one, the Scorpio, Team Villain, and the Sucker, which you can't really see, but it says Sucker for Books. Those are all from her. And then next I got some bookmarks from Gigi and Bo. Oh, I forgot I got that bookmark. Okay, that's so funny. This one I didn't buy though. This must be a gift one because it's just like by itself. So that's super nice. It's cute too. I really like that. I didn't order it though, so I think it's just like a gifted one that maybe you get with every order. Super cute though. I love that. But here's the ones I did order. I only got 4 because I bought a bunch of stuff. In general, I went on a little bit of a shopping spree. Not gonna lie. So half I got with tassels, half I didn't. This is like a cute little angel cowboy. I got it with a tassel. Oh, I love that. That's so cute. These are actually way bigger than I thought they'd be, but it's really good quality. It's almost like, it doesn't even feel like paper. It almost feels like paper mixed with plastic. Like, you know those folders? They're like plasticky. These almost feel like that. I got a Pedro Pascal one. Cute. Love that. Love him. This one I just thought was fun and different in a lot of different colors. And it has a bunch of sardines on it, which I'm not a fan of sardines, not gonna lie, but I just thought it was fun. And then this is like a cowboy frog with a tassel. I got this one with a tassel too. Cute. And the back's just pink. I didn't show the back of all of these, but the back of the sardine is blue. And then back of Pedro Pascal is just orange. And then this one's actually the same on both sides. Okay, love it. These are so cute. They're a very different texture and material than I expected. Yay, more bookmarks. And then I got an order from Shop Jolly Ollie, which I don't remember what I got here, except one thing I do remember, which is the thing I'm feeling that I thought was a book. So it's all wrapped up. Oh, a cute little package. So, Jolly Ollie Designs, if you want to follow them on Instagram. Oh, I forgot. So I got some magnet bookmarks from them because I wanted to try out magnet bookmarks. So I got the little worm, adorable. This like clown frog, adorable, and this little Mothman. How cute. These are actually way bigger than I thought they would be. They're like palm sized. They're all like the size of my palm. The worm's like the smaller one, but those are adorable. Got some other bookmarks. So I got 2 versions of the like heart cakes, 2 colorways. Love that. And then I got just this bat motif thing because it was on sale. I think it was only like $1.50. And then what I was feeling is this. So it's like a sticker book, because at this point I have so many stickers. I think that I should go through and put them in here. So this is like reusable sticker paper. So the idea is you can put all your stickers in here and be able to like take them off and stick them anywhere after. So I think I want to do that. I'm a little scared though. I'm not going to lie. That makes me a little bit nervous, but I'm going to have to trust it. I'm going to have to trust it. So that'll be a project for a different day, but I'll eventually put a bunch of stickers in there. So then it's easier than having all of these just like loose stickers all over my house, and I can have them all in one spot. Okay, but that's it. That's all my stuff. It's all my things. Yay. So exciting.
So as you saw, I redid my Kindle, but then I really was not happy with it. So then I did it again. And then I ended up taking off the pop socket that I put on it because I actually decided that I wanted it on my phone because it kind of went with my phone case. And I needed one for my phone. So I ordered a different pop socket, but the final results I'm much happier with than the original layout, but I love it. And I'm really happy. So, Kindle has been refreshed. That said, Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor, I finished it. And I loved it so much. I would have never guessed what the story was really going to end up doing. Even by the synopsis in the inner flap, it really does not tell you too much of where the story goes, which I think is part of the charm of it. It reads like a legend, like a myth, like a story passed down through generations, which is very much an element within the story because we have our main character, Laszlo Strange, who is very enthralled by the myths and legends that he reads about. He is considered a strange person who is very swept up in whimsy and imagination and all of these beings and creatures that are said to be fake and made up, but maybe they're not so made up, and maybe there's a lot of truth within the legends that we share. And I really had such a time with this. It really just swept me away, took me off my feet. I was so invested in the entire story, so invested in all the characters. This is the most emotionally complex and dynamic book I have ever read. And the fact that it's YA is just really a testament to how great even YA books can still be, and how much, even as an adult, as a 30-year-old woman, I can still get so swept up into a YA fantasy. I think this really transcends any type of age category for a book. We have characters that deal with very deep and dark traumatic things within this extremely colorful, so beautifully described world. And we really, like, the world building alone is so fantastic. You learn so much about this world, the intricacies of it. The world building alone is just so fantastic. And then the characters are so amazing as well. Like, they're just so complex, so deep. We have characters that are dealing with having had to make choices that they're proud of, but like not also proud of, that they had to do it and they wouldn't take it back, but at the same time it still haunts them. And it ties in kind of like religion, but not like in a organized religion type of way, more in a who we, call a god, and what those beings really can be. And maybe gods aren't always benevolent, and in this case, they very much are not. So is this element of gods and different types of beings in this world, and they're not great. They're not all holy. They're not all benevolent. They have done some very dark, twisted things, and you hear about them. So there's a lot of complexity with this. While it's so colorful and whimsy and fun, there's also interwoven darkness and desperation and trauma. And there's mention of quite a few different traumatic things. There's child abuse. There's instances of SA and a lot of things forced upon other beings and being in control of people and stuff like that. There's a lot of philosophical questions to ponder, particularly with our one character, Sarai, that we follow. I just loved her. She is somebody who, due to circumstances, is kind of caught in between two groups. And there's hate and want for revenge on both sides, and she understands and sees both sides, which makes her an extremely unique character in this world with very unique and isolated conflicts that she has to internally deal with. But then there's also this element of the most tender and sweet romance ever. It ended up going over a lot of different just like facets of living, and what that means, what that looks like, what it means to be living versus just being alive, and living life versus just being alive. And so many interesting conversations brought up, and just the way that it ended, it ends on quite a bit of kind of like a cliffhanger. So I'm definitely going to be reading the next book, which is Muse of Nightmares, which I did order on Pango. It's lost in the mail right now, which I'm kind of sad about because I was hoping to be able to show it to you guys during this update. But it's lost in the mail. Hopefully it gets found. Either way, I will get my hands on Muse of Nightmares. Loved this so much. Highly recommend it to anybody, really, to YA readers, to adult readers, to fantasy readers, to any type of reader, really. I think that this was just really, really fantastic. And I think if you're somebody who wants to maybe try fantasy, I think this is a great place to start too, because it was just, again, the world building was so grandiose, but also very, very easy to grasp. It was just really, really great. And I loved the imagery. I loved the writing, minus in the beginning, quite a bit of similes in the beginning of the book, not gonna lie. But overall, the writing was just so immersive and so just beautiful, beautiful descriptions, beautiful characters, just everything, every aspect of this book absolutely nailed. It was absolutely nailed. I cannot wait to check out more by Laini Taylor now. I really am interested in her trilogy that starts with Daughter of Smoke and Bone, which actually on the back of this, they have the really, really old covers for those books, which are crazy vintage looking and crazy out of date looking. Those are not the covers now. The covers now are stunning. So I'm really excited now to eventually jump into another work by Laini Taylor and obviously Muse of Nightmares. But this was great. This was great. I'm so excited that I had to read it for this vlog. 5 stars. So that said, I did start Once There Were Wolves by Charlotte McConaughey, which I'll throw a picture up here. I started it physically, but it's downstairs. I don't feel like getting it. So I did start this book. I'm not super far into it yet, though. I'm on chapter 6, page 50, which I only remember because of how even that number was. So we open up the story with our main character, Inti. She has a sister named Aggie, and they have divorced parents, and they live very expansive lives, we'll say, because their dad lives in British Columbia in like this forest, and he's very into growing his own vegetables, hunting, and getting everything he needs from the land while also minimizing any impact he has on the land. And he's very into environmental conservatism. So he's very into the wilderness. So he really instills that into the girls when they are visiting him in British Columbia. Then their mom lives in Australia. So that's kind of what I mean by they live expansive lives. They're all over the place. They are travelers. So their mom is in Australia, and she is a detective who has like kind of a special interest, I guess. I don't know if it's like her specialty as a detective. I don't quite remember if they mentioned that, but she has like almost a special interest in domestic violence cases, which ends up kind of being an element. And I think it's going to be an element throughout the whole story. So there is this like aspect of domestic violence. So far, not necessarily on page, but very much alluded to and very much kind of talked about, while also integrating this environmental conservatism, because Inti goes on to grow up to be a person part of this wildlife rehabilitation and reintroduction type of group where they have gathered some wolves, and they have gone to Scotland, and they are trying to reintegrate wolves into Scotland. Apparently, wolves used to be extremely abundant in the Highlands, but they have since been extinct pretty much from that area. And it's very much overrun with deer and sheep and a lot of very much grazing types of animals. So the ecosystem is actually very much suffering. The vegetation, the farmland is very much suffering, but they are having a lot of pushback to reintegrate these wolves into this town because the townspeople are very much seeing these wolves as very dangerous. They can't understand how having these wolves would rebalance the ecosystem and how that would actually be good for them. They just see the wolves as bad, that they're going to attack their sheep and their livestock, which is very much their main way of living in this area. They do not see it as good at all. So a lot of pushback from the townspeople toward Inti and her group. So the story follows her going to this Scottish town, doing this project and this like experiment with these wolves, trying to have them breed and whatever. And so we're following her trying to do that while also starting to learn about the town, starting to learn about some of the town people. And then also we're getting chapters flipping into her childhood where she talks about how she was raised and reflects on, you know, her dad, some of the stuff he's going through, and her mom, and how she was really trying to instill certain, not like ideologies, but trying to really make sure that the girls were tough and could handle it, and kind of the way that the mother approaches that. Because I forgot to mention, I can't believe I forgot up to this point, but the biggest thing about Inti, the biggest characteristic and trait of her is that she has, I don't want to say ability because it's not like magic or anything like that, but she has this thing where if she's watching somebody experience some type of sensory input, she feels it. So in the first chapter of the book, or maybe the second chapter, but early in the book, she's watching the male wolf start to kind of like nibble at the neck of the female wolf, and she's watching so she can feel that. And pretty much as long as she's looking at something that is receiving some type of sensory thing, whether it be pain, pleasure, anything like that, she feels that. If she is looking at somebody who has a lot of injuries, she can feel what they are feeling in that moment. So there's quite a few things going on. So far, it's just kind of been introducing all of that stuff. The book's just kind of introduced all of that. And I'm really excited to continue to read. Something seems to have happened to Aggie. And we've only had a couple of, maybe even one, I think I only read one so far, one, maybe two, brief mentions of the present day of Inti interacting with Aggie. And I think that Aggie might be paralyzed and be completely dependent on Inti to take care of her, which is very juxtaposed. I don't really want to use that word, but very 180, I guess, from the stories we're getting from the past, where Aggie was very much a spitfire of a little girl and would get in people's faces, would punch boys that were being mean to Inti. And Inti was very much in the background, in the shadow, not as outspoken, and pretty much just much more sensitive than Aggie was. So I'm curious to see what exactly happened and get more of the present day with Aggie as well, because they seem to be living together. I think that Aggie must just kind of come with Inti wherever she goes. So I'm curious to see what the rest of that aspect is. So there's also this sisterhood element going on there as well. So there's quite a bit of thematic lines happening right now. I don't know what they're all quite doing yet. There's kind of a lot going on, and it's overall just about all this human experience. I am enjoying it right now. It's a bit more of just like a literary, like contemporary fiction. So I'm curious to see what starts to happen, because I think that there becomes a mystery. As far as I can tell, based on what people have said about it, based on the tags on Goodreads, there is a potential mystery that might start to happen. I don't know with what. So I'm curious to see what comes of that. But so far, I've really enjoyed just learning about the characters, the backgrounds, the townspeople. So yeah, that's my update with that. And I will check back when I have more to say. I am on page 144, chapter 17 of Once They Were Wolves. I'm using a magnetic bookmark for the first time. Gotta say, I'm not a fan. Not a fan, but I will use it for now. But I'm gonna eventually switch it. I don't think I like the magnetic ones. It's just kind of more of a pain in the ass. Anyways, that's so beside the point. So remember how the last update I was pondering and wondering what the mystery was going to be? I'm a dumbass because it literally says it in the inside flap. So if I would have just reread the synopsis, I would have known. Kind of glad I didn't though, because I was kind of gagged when it happened. But it does say that somebody ends up dead, and Inti decides to do something in response to this death because she believes that the wolves are going to be blamed for it. Whether or not they were responsible is yet to be determined. But she knows that because this town already has so much hostility towards the wolves, that they're going to immediately blame the wolves. So she decides to do something to try to protect the wolves. And yeah, and then wow, the drama really stirs up. So that happened, and that was like gag. And then something happened immediately after that, a little revelation for our girl Inti herself. And that made me gasp and clutch my pearls. And I was like, oh my God. And then a bunch of other stuff has happened. So I'm really enjoying it. It's very drama. It's very drama. There's a lot coming out about different people in the town. There's now this mystery of what happened to this person that died. But even saying that, there's like different things that different people know, and there's a lot going on here. It's a lot of personal dynamics, a lot of personal relationships, new things about people's connections are being found out, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm having a good time with it. But I will say it's pretty slow in a lot of ways. It's not like super thriller paced, but there's just this drama in this town and these very subtle interspersed or interwoven, I guess, interwoven's maybe a better word, interwoven and lacing themes throughout it that tie in that nature element, how we as people are attached to our own wildness within us and our innate predatory nature, how we treat other people, and how we ourselves are much bigger predators and much more threatening than what people are deeming to be scary. Like the wolves, like the people fear these wolves, but really they should be fearing people more. And like it's just displaced fear, misunderstandings, stuff like that. I will say right now, while I do like everything that's going on, the links between everything doesn't feel super seamless to me as of yet. It feels a little clunky sometimes. And that's not to say that it won't feel well rounded and put together by the end, but as I'm reading it right now, I know that there's connections there that are trying to be made with nature, and then Inti and Aggie, and oh, I have something to say about Aggie in a second. But I know there's connections there between all these relationships and wilderness and these wolves. And I know there's something there, but it's not quite all linking together for me in my head right now. But I am still enjoying it. So that said, Aggie, I had her very wrong. She's not paralyzed. I don't know why. I just kind of assumed by the way that their interaction was described that it seemed like Aggie was unable to care for herself, which in a way she was, but she's not paralyzed. She just has this thing, which is still a little bit unclear, but something happened where she now does not talk. She only communicates by sign language. And she has what Inti describes as good days and bad days. And on her good days, she's walking around, she's doing dishes, she's reading books. But on her bad days, she's almost somewhat like catatonic. I don't know if it would technically be described as that because she is still able to walk around and Inti can lead her to the bath, and Inti will then like wash Aggie's hair for her and kind of take care of her. And Inti, or rather Aggie's just kind of like not really there. Her eyes are very distant. She's responsive enough, but like not very responsive, does not communicate on her bad days, stuff like that. So I'm not quite sure what all that is. But we are going to get the story of that because, like I said, this does jump timelines, and we're slowly getting Aggie and Inti's growing up and some of their background stories, and there's some relationships in their past that are being brought up. And again, I think that kind of will tie into some DV, so that again is another element that is at play here. So yeah, there's quite a lot of elements, and like I said, they aren't super seamless right now, and all the connections aren't super clear to me, but I am enjoying it. I do really like the writing style. There's something about this writing style. It's very unique, but not obviously so. It's like a subtle writing style, but just something about the way Charlotte writes is very mesmerizing almost. It's very subtle. She doesn't waste a lot of words. It's not super flowery or, overflowing or anything like that. But something about it just pulls you in, and it has this atmosphere that I can't quite put my finger on yet. Hopefully I can describe it better by the end. But there's just this charge to the book, which means nothing right now, I feel like. But there's just this charge. It's this subtle undercurrent, underlining anger and rage that is being pushed down. I guess maybe that's like what the whole wildness within us might might be doing like that might be purposeful and go along with that, because Inti is like somewhat of a cold person. She's become very guarded over her life because of circumstances that we have yet to fully uncover, but we definitely have been hinted at quite a few things so far. But very similar to how her mother was trying to raise them. She was trying to raise, particularly Inti, because like I said, Inti was the more sensitive of the two twins. Their mother was really trying to harden them. And again, particularly Inti. And it's worked. I don't know what has completely transpired yet, but Inti is very cold. She holds people at a very much at arm's length, very much distanced. She doesn't want to make super close personal connections to people, and it very much shows. But yeah, some things are happening where she's slowly getting more and more tied into this community, which is very, very close knit and very, knows each other's history. They all go back, they all grew up with each other. So she's slowly becoming integrated into this community, willingly or not. But she's forming these connections that she maybe doesn't want, but because of circumstances, they're happening. So yeah, it's a very somewhat dramatic story. Like, the town drama is juicy and it's not super plot heavy, yet at the same time, there's been some very powerful plot points and twist, dare I say. So it's so far been a very interesting balance. Overall, it's just human connection, human facets, like facets of humanity, and trying to link that with the natural world as well, and how those two run parallel a lot of the time. So I'm definitely very curious to see how the rest of the story goes, if it starts to become very, like, much more plot heavy, and how more thrillery it might end up feeling. Like, it's technically listed under thriller, but it's not like a formulaic thriller by any means. But with like this death and stuff like that, there is this kind of suspenseful thing happening as well. I will say, actually, I'm looking at the inside cover and it describes it as a propulsive and spellbinding story. So I do think that the spellbinding is kind of maybe what I was going for with this mesmerizing, alluring type of writing style. It's just very effective. And it's not an in-your-face unique writing style, but it's definitely a unique writing style. And it just, again, creates this very gripping feel that just kind of pulls me into the story. It's just, I don't know, it's almost like haunting, but that's almost dramatic too, because it's like subtly haunting. But there is a lot to still figure out. A lot of loose ends right now. I'll probably just give you guys my final updates at this point. I'm a little bit more than halfway through if I didn't say or show. But yeah, that's my updates there. This is about to be a very long update because I haven't had the chance to sit down and film any clips the last week. So a lot coming at you right away. First, I wanted to show that I did end up getting my copy of Muse of Nightmares in the mail. I got it from a seller on Pingo Books. So it did come in. It's in great condition. I'm really excited to continue with the duology and complete the duology because this is the last book. So I got that. Yay. Excited about that. And then I finished Once There Were Wolves by Charlotte McConaughey. I'm giving this 5 stars. I loved it. And I kind of said a little bit before, but it just slowly grabbed me. It slowly was intertwining its little fingers into my brain. I ended up feeling so much by the end of this. I bawled my eyes out by the end. It is just really something. The writing style, while it's not like crazy stylized, like it's unique, but it's not unique in a super stylized type of way, but just the atmosphere and the mesmerizingness that Charlotte McConaughey is able to create just really worked so well for me and was super effective. At the core, this book is about people. It's about people that have been hurt, that have created a very cold exterior, that are trying to not be hurt again, but still ending up finding beauty and finding hope despite a lot of trauma and obstacles along the way. It got
quite a bit darker than I expected it to. There are definitely some trigger warnings to be aware of, particularly with like SA. Murder obviously happens, and it gets pretty violent, much more violent than I expected at certain parts. So yeah, the character of Inti was so well done and so dynamic. She is a very kind of like gray character because you see why she is the way she is, but again, she is very cold in a lot of ways. But she's just so passionate, and she has a lot of things that she needs to get past from previous trauma. She's a very flawed character, which I appreciate. She's very flawed, but I was still rooting for her. You know, she makes some choices. She makes some choices, and there's other characters in this book that make some choices that seem very, very difficult to get past. So it was just quite a time to see what the characters ended up doing with and in response to what some of the other characters were doing, okay? To dilute it down, it's about people, it's about their interactions, and then it's about these wolves and the wilderness within us and what happens if you try to either shove that wildness down too much, if you let it out all the way. What's the balance between being the people we are and the environment and our circumstances that have shaped us to be who we are, and then our instincts for survival and what have you. So really, really loved this, but definitely got darker than I expected, definitely got more brutal than I expected, and some moments were very hard to read. And the ending of the book is something I don't want to mention in terms of like, I don't want to give away anything of where one of the conflicts and plot points, I guess, go, but it is something that I know people will potentially hate. But I can't say what it is. But if you really want to know, you can ask me and I'll tell you. But I just don't want to say it to the masses because it does do something at the end, which I loved. And I really loved how it was written and what it said about that. But I know it's something that can be a hard no for people to read about in particular, which I know is saying not really anything unless you've read it and you know what I'm referring to, I guess. But the way that the book ties up, oh my God, like, it ties up in a way that you are, or me, at least me, you as in me. I was bawling my eyes out. I was so sad, but then I was so happy and I was so hopeful. And I just felt everything by the end of this book. And I really, really, really enjoyed it. I'm so glad I picked it up for this vlog. So amazing, amazing, 2 5 stars. That said, I did actually already start and finish Sugarcane by Cassandra Celia. So I didn't DNF it because I realized it's only 143 pages and I literally read it all in one day. So synopsis, because I had nothing to go off of before. This is about a woman who finds out that her husband is a serial killer. And that's really all you got to know going into it. He has killed around about 30 people, 30 women specifically. And she knows about it and kind of what she does as a response to it. I will say this was very bland to me. I think that the premise is really interesting, and I would love to see a more fleshed out version of that premise and to really get into the psyche of a woman married to a serial killer, them knowing that he's a serial killer, and like how they are complicit or their complicated, conflicting thoughts about it. You know what I mean? I would love a fully fleshed out version of that premise, of the premise of this book. But this just didn't provide that. It felt quite a bit surface level. It just felt really bland. Like, it wasn't bad. It really was not bad. I was entertained enough to continue reading through the whole thing, mostly because I wanted to find out like what was going to happen in the end. I wasn't necessarily intrigued my whole way through because the structure of this book is we open up with present day, and then every other chapter is like present day, which is the timeline I was like most invested in and wanted to know how that ended. And then the other chapters are all jumping back in time, but also not in a linear way. So it goes from like present day to 4 years ago to present day to 6 months ago to present day to 12 years ago. Like, it's very jumpy in that way. And I get that some of the past chapters were trying to establish what their relationship was like, But right from the start, I didn't feel connected or cared about their relationship, so I certainly didn't care about how it ended. The more interesting aspects were when the wife finds out, and we see her find out about what he's been doing and what she kind of does in response to that, but it also just didn't go super deep into that. So, yeah, this wasn't horrible. It was fine enough for the day I read it because it also didn't take me too much time to get through it. But I don't necessarily recommend it either. It didn't do anything super impressive to me. The writing was completely fine. The writing was fine, but yeah, it needed something. It was very bland. It fell flat. It needed some seasoning. It needed something more to it that it just didn't do. So it felt like a really solid idea. It feels like a really solid idea. So I'm giving it a 2.5 star because it's very middle of the road. I don't hate it. I don't love it. And I also don't necessarily recommend it because I was going to give it 3 stars. But I mean, for me, most of the time a 3-star is I liked it, period. Or something like that. There's a few different versions of my 3 stars, but I just didn't feel confident enough to say that I even liked this. It didn't take up too much of my time is the biggest pro I could give it, and it wasn't horrible. So it's very, very, very middle of the road. If you own it, give it a go. But that's kind of all I can say on that. And I feel bad because I know that this is like indie published and stuff, but really, really solid idea, just not a worthwhile execution of the story. So actually that's it. I thought I was going to have more to say, but I already said a lot about Once There Were Wolves, and there's really not too much to say about sugarcane. So that is it. That is the end of this vlog. If you made it to this point, leave a knife emoji in the comments down below. Otherwise, thank you so much for hanging out with me while I read books. If you haven't yet, please give the video a like, subscribe for future content, turn on the bell notification, all the fun YouTube things that help your girl out, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye!